Hey guys, yesterday I got the opportunity to interview Jeff Hunter, who is the owner of Savage Marketing Academy. And for those of you who don't know Jeff, he is a multimillionaire. The guy has been everywhere. He's on like Entrepreneur, Inc., Forbes, ABC, CBS, rubbing elbows with people like Tony Robbins on a constant basis. It's just nuts. And he gave us an insane amount of value on outsourcing. I specifically hit him up because he's known as the king of outsourcing. And you're going to want to stick around because I actually got Jeff to cry on this episode, which is not easy to do. So stick around. It's totally going to be worth your time. Have you ever wished you could eavesdrop on a conversation with a millionaire? My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm a retired project controls engineer and business professor. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this podcast. I get to ask the questions that everyone else wishes they could. I'm going to find out exactly how they were able to build their empires through automation and outsourcing. And I'm going to break it down in a way that helps you build your business to run on autopilot. Don't miss out on Automate to Dominate. Well, welcome everybody. Today's guest is Jeff Hunter, and he is the owner of Savage Marketing Academy. So Jeff's been featured on Entrepreneur, Inc., Forbes, ABC, Digital Marketer, CBS. Yeah. That's just to name a few,
what?
By the way.
Of all the things I'm the most proud of, it would be speaking at Digital Marketer's headquarters in Austin, Texas, because I've always been a huge digitalmarketer.com fan. And probably the countless interviews of awesome people that I've done, not just for my podcast, but just because I'm that crazy guy who whips out his phone. And I've done it with Tom Bilyeu, Ty Lopez, Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and Ryan Dice. I was literally at Ryan Dice's office one day, and I said, Ryan Dice is one of the co-founders of digitalmarketer.com, and I was at his office. And it was right after I had spoken at their Digital Marketers Partner Day. And I said, it'd be really fun to you. And I just let it kind of sit there. I was like, while I'm here. He was like, well, I have somewhere I have to go. My kid, I promised my kids we'd do whatever. And I was like, hey, look, I get it. You're super busy. Don't even think about it. And I walked away. And I think it must have got in his brain because afterwards he was like, hey, look, I know that you wanted to do an interview with me and I got, 5 minutes or so. You want to do it? Just come to my office. And you better believe I ran as fast as I could.
Right.
I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life.
I can't believe you didn't whip a cell phone out on Tony Robbins while you were there. I got to be honest.
I did, but it was just a picture.
Oh.
Although, funny story about Tony Robbins. So one of my clients is a platinum partner. That's how we had those crazy seating. You probably saw the picture of me like right there next to him.
Yeah.
And I was actually doing a pitch. To the Chivas de Guadalajara. It's the biggest football team in North America. They sold 28-point-something million jerseys last year. And
Holy cow.
I was pitching, helping them do their social media for the American audience. And the funny part is I was trying to leave to the little like VIP room where all the platinums are so I could do the call, but I couldn't because Tony Robbins was standing right next to me and he was like doing his talk and I didn't want to be that guy. And second off, I don't know if you've ever been to a Tony Robbins event, but if Tony Robbins is in an aisle next to you and you start to move, there's security people ready to tackle your ass.
Oh, geez.
So I literally was on the Zoom call because I was the host. It wouldn't start until I was there. I was on the Zoom call and I have the recording. It's too funny. I should turn this into something. I actually took the recording I was on the Zoom call and I shot them up at Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins saw that he was being recorded on my Zoom call, and he gave me the eye. So I happen to think that earned me a little clout because I'm like, look, this call is so important to me that even though I'm here at this Tony Robbins event and Tony Robbins is looking at you, I'm on this call.
Right. That's hilarious.
Now that's how you start a podcast.
Exactly. You have to take notes and do that on yours.
Yeah. That's how you start it off, right? That is savage.
That is savage. So other than hanging out with Tony Robbins, Jeff also has a huge love for Frenchies.
I do. Matter of fact, the love is fading because we have way too many right now.
Too many puppies.
I don't know how this worked out, but like all the Frenchies went into heat at the same time. My wife, so we're hobby breeders. I shouldn't say we. I mean, really, it's my wife. I'm just funding it. But my wife is a huge Frenchie enthusiast, and when she started the business, she wanted to do something different. So actually, we're doing exotic French bulldogs. So we do all the crazy colored ones with the spots and stuff like that. You know, she sells the dogs for like $7,500. They're crazy, crazy cool dogs. But right now, we just have too many.
They're just crazy dogs.
Yeah. We had 3 of our female. We only have 3 females, and all 3 females went into heat weeks apart.
Oh my goodness.
So, we had 3 litters within 30 days. It was interesting to say the least. But yes, we still love Frenchies. I would love them a lot more if they were in somebody else's home. We have like 9 right now.
Soon they're gonna.
We have 9 puppies and 5 adults. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, soon they're gonna get to take that magical Camaro ride off to their new home.
That's true. Oh, I see. This is the truth. This is the truth and power of storytelling, guys. What Michelle's talking about right now is a story I wrote, last year. And with the picture, because I said, there's no one in the world who's got a puppy delivery service like me. I'm in my Savage Marketer swag. I got my shirt on, my hat on. I'm in my black convertible Camaro, and sitting next to me in the black convertible Camaro is a French bulldog in her little black container looking out at the world.
Right next to the Merle bag.
Exactly. And my wife has the branding. Of course, I helped her get the logo design stuff done by my branding team. So they've got, even the logo, like people always contact us. My wife's like, wow, I can't believe it. It's only been 2 years or 2.5 years of breeding, and we're already like one of the most famous Merle French Bulldog breeders. And of course, that was by design, right? So.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Jeff is the man when it comes to marketing, and he's like an expert in like social media and branding and copywriting, starting online businesses and product management. But we're going to try and hit him up today for his virtual team.
Where it started.
That's right.
And the funny part is, guys, I started my virtual assistant company. Actually, you and I have a very similar story. I started my virtual assistant company as a Fortune 500 project manager for a company, and built my own little team on the side to do stuff because I hated doing stuff all by myself. And when I found out what a virtual assistant can do, it's funny because I didn't have a virtual assistant first. The first person I hired was actually not a virtual assistant. It was a project manager who helped me build my Gantt charts. And by the way, this was back when Fiverr was still $5.
Right.
So it was way back in the day. But I found this guy from Pakistan, and as a project manager, it's called Gantt charts. They're basically a giant list of all the little tiny tasks that we have to do, or they could be big tasks, and how long it takes to do all of them. And then when you put all those tasks together and how long they take, that's how you construct how long the project's going to take. Because, at the project management level, you break everything down into task level activities. See, now we're getting to the virtual assistant side, right?
Yep.
Because that's how everyone should be doing all their projects, by the way, is at task level. Yep. So if you know that a certain task, let's talk about building a house. Let's say that the first thing is going to be pouring. Actually, even before the foundation is poured, you have to do all the pipes and everything under the ground. How long is that going to take? Then pouring the foundation, and then putting all the stuff inside the concrete that supports the beams that are going to go in, and the beams go in, and then the drywall goes in, and then blah, blah, blah. How long is it all going to take? You don't just go and say, I think it's going to take about 3 weeks to do that. Yet here we are in an entrepreneurial world where people give out bogus things like, yeah, you know what, $2,500, I should have that done for you in a week. And 3 weeks go by, and 3 months go by, and then everybody hates you. So if there's one thing we're going to accomplish on the call today, because I did see a bunch of questions you got for me, But if there's one thing that I can leave people today that are looking at building a virtual team, that are actually looking at making a big impact in their business, moving things forward and leveraging someone virtually, it will be that you need to break your business down into task level activities.
Yep. And so many people miss that, and then they fail because they hire a VA and they think the VA is just going to read their mind, and they have no idea how to actually manage them and how to appropriately give them training so that they can be successful. Because if you hire a VA and you get really bad results, check your shoes, because 9 times out of 10, it's you.
You know, it's funny. People aren't going to like this, but a lot of times people contact me and they want me to help them find a VA or use my team. And it's very interesting because really quickly after having a conversation with them, I ask them, so tell me about what you do on a daily basis. And okay. And then they'll say something like, and I say, okay, so what's that process look like that you're trying to do? Well, it's just like this and that. And I'm like, okay, so do you have like an instructions list or anything like that? No, not exactly. And I'm like, is this like a repeatable thing that you're, well, you know, what I really want to do, Jeff, is hire somebody that's going to come in and figure it all out. And I said, you know what? You're talking to the wrong guy. Yeah. I got a phone number for you. It's a 900 number. You don't need me. You need a mind reader.
It's so true. Oh my gosh, it's so true.
And the funniest part is, I'm not even kidding you. Like, you know me well enough through my social. Like, that's literally something I said. Like, I offended somebody. And look, so let me give you, I'm going to give everybody a little secret. And this is how, so I have a 60-person team right now. And I can tell you, it would not even be possible if it wasn't for my 6 project managers. And it's interesting because most of them have never had project management experience in their life, right? And me being a project manager, that's where I invest most of my time, is in my project managers. I actually don't speak to anyone at the task level, except for maybe a web developer and a graphic designer, because I'm trying to explain to them something that I'm trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Like for right now, I just launched my new jeffjhunter.com website. And the very first thing on the website talks about building your brand. It takes them to my branded media website. But then on the second thing is actually my podcast, which I'm starting to promote actively now. I just had my 4th episode go live on Monday. And
which needs to go on Jeff J. Hunter, by the way.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
That's the point. And that's what I said. And so on my Savage, I got a little 50-second sizzle reel. And then next to it, I have an opt-in. And I saw, and this is partly my mistake, and guys, this is exactly what me and Michelle are talking about, is that he didn't actually do the opt-in right into my podcast. He actually opted people into the branded media, which is my branding agency, which was wrong. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey, I need this to be an opt-in to the podcast and do it just like on my savagemarketer.com website. And he's like, oh, okay. So there's little things. And one of the things that I've learned the most about working with a virtual team, and by the way, this goes with a in-person team, so I don't want to hear you guys complain about this, is that you have to have a clear communication plan. And more importantly, you need to be patient. You can't expect somebody to grab the wheel and start driving from day one. You've got to help them out. It's just like any type of driving instructor, you know, you've got to have that car who in the passenger seat has the built-in brake, so you can hit the brake for them if they need it. And that's the thing, you know, you don't know what you don't know.
And we talk about that, like the onboarding process. And, you know, I tell people this all the time. Think about it. If you were that employee, you just started a new job and all of a sudden your boss hit you with 10 tasks that you're supposed to have perfect by the end of the day, and you have no instructions and you're just supposed to go do it.
Yeah.
How would you feel if somebody did that to you?
Yeah.
You know? Well, and how long does it take you to get those 10 tasks?
To an entrepreneur, that is a very tall order, because when I was an entrepreneur, I didn't have instructions. I didn't have training wheels. Right. And I think that the hardest problem is for entrepreneurs to look at themselves. And this is why I believe that the corporate structure and the entrepreneurship needs to blend a little bit more, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs are scrappy. They don't have their processes together. They don't really have, kind of built. They're not.
Nobody
really,
knows what a procedure is.
Yeah, they're not really built to scale. And that's why I've coined something. Instead of a standard operating procedure, I don't call them SOPs. I call them freedom recipes, because they really are. It's a perfect descriptor, because this is about freedom for you who doesn't want to do something anymore. So this is the freedom that you want, but to do so, and this is why recipe comes after freedom, the recipe needs to be something that, just like a recipe book, you can put together, and you can have very specific elements to the recipe, and that you've got to get the bowl, and you've got to mix up the flour, and you've got to add the eggs, and then you've got to put in the cinnamon, and you got to put the sugar in, and you've got to put it in the oven for 350 degrees for 22 minutes or whatever. And then that way that every time you bake that cake, that it's going to come out the same every time. See?
Yep. That's how you control your quality.
That's exactly how you control your quality. And a lot of people don't invest the time. As a project manager, the saying is that for every single minute that you invest in planning a project saves 10 minutes in execution.
And it's so true. If people would just take the time to put it out step by step, they never have to do it again. And that's what people don't get, is they're like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Like, okay, if you would just take a minute to do that and set up your process and your procedure and your tutorial videos or whatever, your step-by-step guide, then it runs by itself. You never have to teach it again if you've done it correctly.
Yeah. And one of the things that I teach is, I call it the 2-4-6. And it's basically like, especially if you're starting out with someone in the beginning, like spend 2 hours of their day. 2 hours of their day should be just watching you work on something, just so they can understand it. And you're explaining it, and you record it. Here's what I'm doing, this and that. You're doing the work anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So now you have someone watching you, and they're doing the work, or they're watching you do the work. And then the 4 part is for the next week. The next week, or it can be the next day, depending on how fast they get it, is that now they're actually doing the work for you, and you're watching. See that?
Yep.
And then the 6, this is when you've moved on, and you're doing your work, and they're doing their work, and you're spending 2 hours of your day to check in on them and review what they've done. And usually those 2 hours, and there's literally 6 hours spent there. That's all there is. That's all there was 6 hours spent right there. And those 6 hours spent, 2 hours of you doing it and them watching, 2 hours of them doing it and you watching and helping, and then 2 hours of them doing it for themselves, or an 8-hour shift or whatever, and then 2 hours to review. That's usually enough time to pass off pretty much any activity that you're doing. And a lot of times you hear these lies from people to say, well, they'll never do it as good as me. Well, that could be true in some cases, like if you're a graphic designer or a web developer, and maybe you're just way light years ahead. But I will tell you this, most of my team that I have, they're better at me. and that's the goal, right? And that's by design, because, and that's why I don't like the word outsourcing. I call it upsourcing and downsourcing. There's things that I'm hiring people that are like below my skill level and are taking time away from my zone of genius. And then there's things where I'm hiring people that just are way better at what I do. Like, for example, I'm working on a funnel right now for someone you probably know, Grant Cardone. And he and I are launching this. He's a partner with this other medical company that are launching a supplement line. And I hired Chris Benetti, who's a really fantastic funnel builder, top funnel builder. He's got some of his templates are in the ClickFunnels, like templates, if you've ever been in ClickFunnels. He's a funnel designer who's won awards from ClickFunnels. He's done websites for like Rachel Peterson and Alex Sharfin and Russell Brunson himself. So I hired up, like I know that it would take me and my team a lot of time to do it, and I wouldn't get the results that I want. And I'm probably paying him more than if I would have done it in-house, but I'm also getting a better result. So you have to think about that. Think about that. Upsourcing and downsourcing. I'm up-leveling, I'm down-leveling. And then you just need to stay in your zone of genius, whatever that is.
Yep. That's huge. And that's one of the things that I do is, tell people which box does it go in, right? If, if it's something that's a repeatable task that you shouldn't be doing, can a robot do it? Can a piece of software do it? Or can you hire a VA at, X dollars an hour to do it? If it's something you don't know anything about, don't hire a VA and try to train them. you need to give that to an expert. There's a reason
Exactly. And there's a quick litmus test that I use. It's called ADD. Automate, delegate, or delete. Is it something that you can automate? Because there's things that you don't need to delegate people to, like the Active Campaign and these other email softwares. Like I used to have a team member go and type a newsletter every time a podcast goes out. Now I learned in automation that I could have Active Campaign check my RSS feed on my blog. And every time my blog goes out, it automatically sends an email letter to my people when that blog post is done. So that saves a whole lot of time for somebody on my team because it pulls the information from the blog post. So that's a really incredible moment in my life when I realized, oh my gosh, this is the automation factor. So once you've automated what you can, if you can't automate something, then you've got that tough choice. Is it something I'm going to delegate to somebody, or is it really something that's a good activity that I should be doing? If not, it's got to be deleted. So the ADD, especially for entrepreneurs, it's a very easy acronym to remember. And I would just do a quick litmus test to check, is this something that I can automate? Is it something that I need to delegate? Or is it something that I shouldn't even be doing at all in the business, period, and delete it?
Yep. So if you had like somebody who was new to outsourcing, right? What are the top 5 areas that you would have them look at to figure out if they could automate it, delegate it, or delete it?
So there's 4 areas for me. And I have my life separated out into 4 boxes. My first thing and the easiest thing to outsource is your repetitive tasks. So your repetitive tasks go first. That's your email, right? Like how many emails do you have in the morning? How many payments do you have? Like I have someone who does payroll, right? Her only job is to really do payments and payroll. So when payments come in from clients, she's checking to make sure that it's all appropriated and that things are kicked off after they come in. And then whenever, and of course, whenever people need to get paid on my team, she makes sure she helps calculate and work with them to see if there's any discrepancies with their payments, and then she sends them all out. So like those are things that most business owners really struggle with, right? Especially when you have a 60-person team like me, all overseas. Well, not all of them, but they're all remote. Like 75% of my team are remote. Or 100% of my team is remote. 75% of my team are in the Philippines. The second column is a little bit of what we talked about earlier, which is what are the puzzling things in our life? What are the challenging things that we need to up-level? So it could be funnel design. How much time are you spending making funnels and things that you're wasting your time on because it's either not going to turn out the way you want it, or more importantly, it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 times longer than just hiring someone to do it, right? So funnels, other things that people do that are challenging are email marketing and automation campaigns. Like, do you want to do that all yourself, or do you want to hire somebody to do that, right? And that's the thing, and this is, people always talk about hiring in different countries and stuff. Like, I don't care what country they're in. I'm looking for the result. People always come to me, and I know this is a question that you have, so we're going to come back to it, but there's very specific talent pools around the world that are just better at doing certain things. Like my copywriting team is primarily American. Why? Because my audience is American, and I want my audience to be able to relate to the copy, right? All right, so that's some of the stuff that I would upsource, or the challenging stuff. The third column is neglected. What are the things that you should be doing, but you're not because you're busy doing these other things? So, like, for example, one, for me, definitely social media, right? Social media is definitely one of the things that most businesses neglect. They're not doing enough social media. They're not doing enough video branding. They're not doing enough blogging. There's just so many different things that people are neglecting because they're busy in their business instead of on their business, right? They're not working.
Their business is running them instead of them running their business.
Yeah, they've created a job for themselves and they can't escape it, right?
Yep.
And they're just ready to clock out at the end of the day. So that's definitely something you should look at, is what is your neglected thing. And then after you kind of have that all separated out, what I do is I go through and say, okay, of all these things that I've listed, what are the most valuable uses of my time? And that, by the way, doesn't just mean work. Spending time with your kids, is that valuable to you? You have to start putting a realistic expectation on the value of things in your life. If spending quality time with your kids or going to the gym or maybe sales, back to the business, maybe you should be creating new products. Maybe you should be creating that funnel that you've never created, or maybe you should be recording those videos for your training modules that you haven't done and you've promised people, which is, by the way, one of my things. I have a few more training modules I have to get done, right? There's things that we all put off, and that's where that final fourth column is what is the most valuable things in your life? Because what I live by is a principle called the 90-10 rule, the 90-10 philosophy, the 90-10 life, which is most of us are so busy kicking the 90% of the rocks that are really not pushing us forward, instead of focusing our life on that 10% that actually moves us forward by actually pushing the boulder. And that's one of the things that I feel like I'm very passionate about, whether you are a first timer or you're a seasoned veteran, is how can we push that boulder and remove those rocks?
Yep. And it's interesting you say 90-10. I've always heard it like 80-20, but that 10% usually tends to be the things that you like to do and that really energize you and recharge you. And
I'm going to say a word that people don't like to hear. They're usually the hardest. They're usually the hardest things. And we as humans always find the easiest path, the least amount of resistance possible. And we don't do the things that people are always worried about not getting results, or not getting results in their life. They're not getting results in their love life. They're not getting results in their wallet. And it's because they're focusing on little things. They're coming into the office. They're doing repetitive things that, they know it's not the best use of their time. And I'm a huge fan of Brian Tracy. If you know who Brian Tracy is. Yep. He has a great book called Eat That Frog.
Eat That Frog. It's
about tackling that first hardest, most difficult thing right when you get to work. Like, don't come in and start doing your emails. What is the number one thing that's going to move your business forward today? And do that.
Yep. And so when you started compartmentalizing and figuring all that out, how did that help you to actually increase your revenue by pushing all that other stuff off your plate?
Man. Well, first off, I did start organizing what it is that I'm actually working on. One of the things in my own, so I have an agency, and if you're an agency owner listening to this, you probably can relate to this, but I have a copywriting team. I have a graphic design team. I have an executive assistant team. That's of all the things that our company does, I would say 1/3 of our company, which is a huge portion of revenue, comes from our virtual assistant team, where we actually work with companies to help them assign virtual assistants to them. So just that one department of my company has 20 team members. So out of the 60, 20 people are reporting to my project manager. Her name's Miles. And then I have a podcast team, because not only do I have my own podcast, but we also have 3 other podcasts for clients that we help manage their podcasts. We have an SEO team, which is kind of almost integrated into the copy team. And then we have our social media team. So we also have, I guess you could say, a web team and a video team, but the social media team and the video are kind of the same. And the web team, it is a standalone team, but those guys they're rock solid. Actually, both of my web developers have been working with me for, get this, 6 years.
That's awesome.
Before I even quit my real day job, they were working for me. I found that was the first people I hired. I was like, man, I really need some web developers for all these crazy ideas I have in my head. So once you back to your question, once you compartmentalize, where your focus is, it becomes easier, because each of those departments have their own initiatives. So web design, social media team, SEO, and that's what I've learned. And I actually took that from the corporate world, is that as you are moving forward, it's kind of like the Space Force, actually. This is a perfect, I can't believe I didn't think about this. This is a perfect analogy. So Trump created what's called the Space Force. And this is now like the official like sixth form of military in the government. And people made fun of him for it. But what's interesting is that the Space Force was actually a conglomerate of Air Force people and some Navy people and some Army people and some Marines and some other different people that were really all working under this kind of space initiatives, but they didn't have an actual initiative. They were all pulling budgets from their own thing, and primarily it was the Air Force was the primary thing, but they didn't have their own directive. See, every single force has their own directive. Obviously, the Marine Corps has a very specific objective. The Navy, the Air Force, the Army, they all have very specific objectives. But not until Trump created the Space Force did they have their own initiatives that were standalone and not dependent on anyone else's money or resources. Aha. That's the trick. Now, this might not apply to all of you listening here because maybe you're just starting out, you want to hire a VA, but once you start building a company at my size, and my size isn't even huge, like 60 people isn't even a lot of people, you know. But at 60 people, let me tell you, at 20 people, it starts wearing on you. You know, right? At 60 people, if you don't have a good project management team, people you can rely on, trust me when I say, you are going to have some serious burnout. I know because I had serious burnout 2 years ago. I had actually less than that, a year and a half ago. I really had some turnover on my project management team, and it was horrible. I mean, talk about having no life, going from, you know, managing nobody to managing, you know, half your team because you're having, you know, turnover on your team. So that goes back to why it's so important to have documentation, because the documentation is if somebody says sayonara, they're out of here, you know, they kamikaze and they're out of here, and you need to fill those shoes real quick. And that's why I always recommend doing not only SOPs, not doing those freedom recipes, but also doing video explainers of people that know what the hell they're doing, actually doing it.
Yep, absolutely. And then what I'll do for, you know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's a huge task. I can't do all that. Well, once your VA knows how to do it, have them record the video.
Boom. So, and here's a beautiful thing. Do you have a project manager on your team?
Not yet.
We should talk about that, because let me tell you,
that was my next question is, did you hire them or did you grow them?
Ah, good question.
Yeah.
I grew most of them.
Yeah.
I grew most of them. As a matter of fact, funny story, Rodora, who's my operations manager, she oversees everybody. She's actually the one who pays people. She's hiring people. She's firing people. She's doing a lot of work. And hold on, I was going to show you something, but my mouse took a ride. Oh, that's right. Well, this is an audio thing. I know that we have video. Hopefully, you're going to post the video for these people in the future. But let me just paint a picture. Then I'll imagine. Do you
want me to share the screen?
No, we're okay. I was going to show you a picture of her, but just imagine this. This is a person who contacts me. She's from the Philippines. Her name's Rodora, and she contacts me and she says, "Hi," and by the way, in really bad English, says that she's looking for a work from home position, that she really wants to work for me, and she loves what I stand for and this and that. And this is 6 years ago, and she wants to set up a call. Now, normally when I get those, I'm just like, nah. I get a lot of inquiries for jobs every day. I have a spreadsheet with thousands of people. I own a Facebook page called Virtual Assistant Jobs that literally gets inquiries every day to work for me. And what's really interesting about the story, though, is that she kept emailing me over and over and over. And I was like, okay, well, let's give her a shot. I like the persistence. So I get on a call with her on Skype, and I can't hear anything. Okay. All right. Well, I just told her, I said, sorry, it didn't work out, and she's like, no. She sends me an email like, I'm so sorry. I couldn't get my computer to work and figure out the audio thing. And I'm like, well, in my head, I'm thinking, well, audio is really important for me.
Right.
Right. So it was literally the worst interview that was the second worst interview that I've ever done in the existence of owning my own company. So then she emails me 3 or 4 days in a row, like, I'm so sorry, I've got to figure it out. Can we do a call? At this point, I'm just like, okay, let's just do the call because I'm tired of these emails. I gave her a second chance. So she calls me up on Skype, and I hear this screechy little voice who barely speaks any English. I'm asking questions, and they're just falling on either hard to comprehend or just completely just the worst English you could possibly imagine. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, And I looked over her resume and I realized that she had no job experience. She had not finished college, and she had told me that she had dropped out, actually. And then I just told her, I said, I'm really sorry, but you're either going to have to get work experience or you're going to have to finish school, or one or the other, because I really don't want to have to train people from ground zero. And she looked at me and she said, well, she hung up on the Skype call, and she messaged me and she said, no, I really, really want to work with you, and I really need this job. And I told her what my requirements were, and then she sent me a long email afterwards, and she said, well, I'd love to go back to school, and I'd love to also go back to work, but my husband is a seafarer. He works on a boat, and he's gone most of the year, and we just had a baby. And now I can't go to school, and I definitely can't get a job because I have a newborn baby. And at this point, I felt like a real asshole, right? And she says, I understand I don't have the experience and I don't have the education, but I'm willing to work for you as long as it takes. I always get emotional when I tell the story. Damn it. But she said, I'm willing to work for you as long as it takes to prove my value. And not only could I tell how desperate she was, but I also could tell how determined she was. And as much as desperation turns me off, the determination and consistency and persistency from her turned me on. And I was really excited. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to give her, but I knew I had to find something. And maybe this is a lesson for your listeners, but one of the things that I do is I go to trade shows a lot. Matter of fact, I just came back from CES a couple weeks ago, the Consumer Electronics Show, biggest show in the world. And all the newest technology and stuff always comes out there. And there was a very specific trade show I was going to that had a bunch of people that I knew would be interested in what I'm doing as a virtual assistant company. And I said, look, I want to go to this event. And they gave me a vendor list. They always give you a little vendor list right before, like, here's all the people, you can see them at this booth and whatever else. And I said, here's this vendor list. It had like 100 or so vendors. And I want you to find the CEO and the vice president and the marketing director for these companies that are going to be there. And I want to get their contact information. And I gave her a little spreadsheet with the first name, last name, email address. And I figured it'd probably take her, I don't know, at least a week, because there's 100 contacts on there. And, just finding the emails alone, I gave her access to my hunter.io account, which is like an email hunting tool. And 48 hours later.
Wow. Wow.
I get a message back. And she says, I'm done, sir. And I'm like, wow, this is exciting. All right. Because this is valuable to me. If she's able to do 100 plus, probably 200 contacts, because I gave her multiple people to search up. And I said, boy, if this comes back, this just data scraping alone is worth so much money. Like I can send emails to people. This is a revenue generating activity, right? And lo and behold, I look at the spreadsheet 48 hours later, and it has first name, last name, email address, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. It had so much rich data on it, and I was like, wow, this is someone who really cares and really is determined and went the extra mile.
Yep.
And I hired her 6 years ago, and today she's still here, and she's run through the ranks many, many times. Now she's the operations manager. I think she's been promoted 4 times, and she's been given 8 raises over the past 6 years. And that's more than I ever got when I worked at any job.
Yeah. And that's such a huge point, is that, I think people forget this. And that is, people who are good bosses and who outsource well, we are able to change lives. And so many people either don't take the time to think of that, or just don't realize. I mean, I had similar situations where, I had a girl who got a hold of me, and she's like, "Miss Michelle, I really have to work." I'm like, I don't have anything right now. And same deal. She was so persistent, and she was one of my best workers, and she worked with me for years. And we built such an amazing relationship, and it not only changed her life, it changed her whole family's life. The income that she got from working for me, she gave to her parents, and they started a shop, and they now own a shop in the Philippines, and she now manages the shop. She went back to school and put herself through school. And I mean, just that, I mean, I could tell you story after story of employee that was able to completely change their lives. And people say to me all the time, "Well, don't you feel bad, hiring somebody for $5 an hour? Isn't that taking advantage of people?" No, you don't understand what the economy is like in the Philippines.
If I had $1 for every time someone said I was exploiting a third world country, and here's what's really interesting too, and actually I know you remember this. I released something called the Definitive Virtual Assistant Salary Guide.
Yep.
Do you remember this?
Yep.
And this went crazy. I mean, I had so many downloads, but I also had so many haters. And they're usually Americans and UKs and Australians, these stay-at-home moms that are foolishly branding themselves as virtual assistants. Yep. And I said, so now you have someone who's literally a digital marketer calling themselves a VA, which a VA in pretty much any, I mean, if you Google virtual assistant, you know what shows up? Fiverr and Upwork and these other companies that are and outsource to the Philippines.com is going to show you how to hire a VA for $3 to $5 an hour. And I said, do you really want to compete against them? Because I can tell you right now, any of my American VAs, like if there was an American VA, I could put up against any of my Filipinos, and I guarantee you my Filipinos will run circles around them.
Yep.
Because they work like hell. And the reason why I hire Filipinos, of course, not just because economically they're super valuable, and the impact you can make, obviously, everyone on my team.
That's secondary. Totally secondary. Go ahead. I know where you're going with this. I know exactly where you're going. Yep.
You know where I'm going. But let me put up the one thing that most people don't know, which is the people in the Philippines right now with my 60 team, and 75% of them are in the Philippines. Most of them, if not all of them, are making the most money that anyone in their freaking family has ever made generationally working for me.
Yep.
Right? Like, I've been to the Philippines 15 times. I've been there. I'm planning on going back this year. Right. And every time I go and I see someone who's working at a shoe mart, they call it SM, which is their big retail store over there. And they're making 10,000 pesos a month, which is literally $200. Yep. Right.
A month, people.
Oh, yeah,
that's working full time and commuting an hour to work and an hour back and paying for their bus fare and packing their lunch and being gone 13 to 14 hours a day.
Right.
That's my disclaimer. Okay, continue.
Yeah. No, you're on the money. But not. Look, we're all entrepreneurs here. So if I said that I wasn't in it to make money, that'd be a complete lie. But what I will tell you is something else. That's not the number one reason why I hire from the Philippines. The number one reason I hire from the Philippines is because they're loyal.
Yep.
The average tenure in an American company right now is 1.8 years. That means you're investing all this time in people to become something in your company, and they leave after 1.8 years. I've got most of my team on years. Literally years, like Redora, who's been with me for 6 years. Both of my web developers who were hired before Redora. I have even Miles, who is my own executive assistant and project manager over the virtual assistant team, has been working with me now for 2 years. And every year I'm expanding out their roles. I'm growing from within. I'm hiring new people in. We've hired and fired hundreds of people over the years. And what I will tell you is that the people that stay, they're lifers, right? Yep.
And they want to be. They're loyal, they're hardworking, they will go above and beyond. I mean, don't get me wrong, you got to weed through some crap to find some good ones.
99%. 99%. Yep. It's really that 1%. But when you find them. And here's an interesting play, guys. And I have to say, I have the easiest time compared to anyone that I know because I've branded myself well. I've branded myself to the point to where people come searching for me, like Julio, who you've seen stories about. Julio is my sales guy, and he was a senior manager at a big call center in the Philippines. He sent me a message one day and said, "Hey, look, do you have any sales roles over there? I'd really be interested." And I said, "Well, I don't even have a sales position over here." And he goes, "Well, listen, I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking anywhere else. I just really want to work for you. I love your mission. I love what you're doing. I'm really not looking for I'm really happy where I'm at, but I really want to work for you. And if you give me 48 hours, I'll come back and I'll give you a PowerPoint presentation." No, he said, "You give me 48 hours and I'll come back with you with some ideas on how I could benefit you and your company." Okay, that's a fair deal. Well, in the over-delivering manner that he does, 24 hours later, he sends me over a 15-page PowerPoint presentation called "Why You Should Hire Julio."
Nice. That's freaking
with
awesome.
With his giant picture on it. And the very first thing when you open it up is a bio sheet about him. And he says he's a fried chicken lover. He's a vaping enthusiast. He's a sales trainer. That was the last thing, was he was a senior sales trainer. And already that was funny. And then he had these little bars that went across and said like his skill competency from 0 to 100. It was like a bar graph. And one of them was like Microsoft PowerPoint and Excel, 90, graphic design, 80, and social media posting, 90. And then one of the things said diet, 30%. And if you've seen Julio, he's a big old boy.
That's hilarious.
So I knew right away he and I were going to be pals, right? And to this day, like, look, it's just like family. And I really do feel like I'm growing a family here. Like, we have days that aren't the greatest. There's days where, he's not pulling his weight, or days when I'm not pulling my weight, right? And we all have days like that. But what I will tell you overall is that you need to look at people's benefits and their cons, and their pros and cons, and you need to really keep people. And this is the takeaway. If you take anything away from all this right now, is that you really need to keep people that are on your team focused in their zone. Like, what do they like to do? I know Julio loves sales. I know Julio loves to be on the phone with my clients. I know he loves coming up with proposals. I know he loves pitching. He loves the idea of making a sale. He loves when the sale comes in, right? Like, that's where Julio's also really good at helping me make presentations and stuff like that. So he actually helps me make a lot of my lesson plans for my own student groups. So there's a lot of things, like even this right here. This guide right here, you guys can't see this on the podcast, but I'm holding up something that says Social Profile Secrets, and it has like these 3 things that you're going to learn in here. You're going to learn this 5-step proven profile template that will help you land new clients, how to use a sales funnel strategy to get – this is a free download that I have for anyone who signs up for my Savage Marketer podcast. But you can see right here, the very first page is he actually puts together – Step 1, optimize your cover photo. So he actually made this. This isn't even a guide I made. Like, people pay thousands of dollars for a really nice lead magnet like this. And he made it on PowerPoint, and then we sent it to our graphic design team to just make it look nice, right? Like, here's what your profile picture should look like, and here's what your brand promise should look like on your profile, your little mini bio, optimize your introduction. So he puts all these little things together for me. This is where his zone of genius is. And by the way, whenever I'm not getting results from Julio, guess what it is? I'm usually putting him in a role that he doesn't want to be in. He doesn't want to do things. And, Julio, I love you. I'm going to send this clip to you. But there's always times when you're not getting results that you have to look inwardly and saying, why am I not getting results? Am I getting results because I'm asking someone to do something they didn't sign up for, they don't have a passion to do?
Yep.
I didn't give them the accurate instructions? Or is it because they just don't have what it takes to do the role? And that's a tough question to ask, but it usually has a lot of signs either way. And I'm all about quick to, slow to hire and quick to fire. The faster you can get rid of a leak in a boat, the less you'll sink. And I will tell you, the times where I've had the biggest headaches in my company is when I've let a leak go far too long. So think about this, guys. And it's a lot easier to fire somebody and say that they're doing a bad job than it is to look back and say, why are they doing that bad job?
Yep. And that's so true, because you're going to always run into a bad egg, right? It just happens. But if it's consistently happening and you're seeing a repetitive pattern, it's not the employee. Look at what you're doing. Look at your processes, or have someone else look at it. Sometimes you're so ingrained and you don't realize what you're doing. I did that multiple times. I didn't even realize I was asking my employees to be a mind reader, and I didn't even realize it until, somebody called me out and they're like, hey, you didn't even tell them how to do it. And I was like, oh, shoot.
Do you want to hear a specific example that happened in the past week?
Absolutely.
You're going to laugh at this. I hate adopting new technology. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm an early adopter, but I hate the idea of changing everyone else over to it because it's so much drama and have to get people trained and people make excuses. And so I've just learned, like, we've been using the same project management tool forever, even though I can't tell you how many new project management tools that were going to revolutionize the way we work. And we're still on Active Collab. Well, finally, for the past year, we've been talking about switching away from Slack and using another communication tool called Discord, which is actually made for gamers. Okay. And what's interesting about this is that Slack charges $5 a user per month. Well, when you have 60 people on your team, that's costly.
Right.
So the problem, though, is if you use the free version of Slack, once you get to 10,000 messages, it just starts deleting all the old messages. So there's things that were being dropped and things that were being missed. But then my team started talking about Discord, and I'm like, interesting. Because in the Discord world, they monetize it differently because it's geared towards gamers, and it's not going anywhere. So what we ended up doing was, and this I will share my screen with for you. Check this out. Oh. So I'm going to describe, I'll describe this as good as I can as well for the listeners. But this is, so remember when I told you about all the teams that I have on here? Yeah. Do you remember I even had, here's my project manager chat. I have some client tasks for some common clients. I've got our copywriting team. Uh-huh. We have our graphic design team, our executive assistant team, our podcast, our lead generation team. I forgot about the lead gen team. The lead gen team is rolled into the executive assistant team, by the way. A lot of our clients just want to hire somebody to do like what Redora did. Remember when I said how she just scrapes data? Yeah. That's still a really popular thing because automation still can't can't do what a human can do, right? Like a human.
Yeah, it just doesn't understand it correctly just yet.
Yeah, exactly. And even I mean, the technology might come to a place and point in the next couple of years where, lead gen can be completely scraped by robots. But right now, there's still such a huge demand. So social media, web team, whatever. And so funny enough, I can see right here that I said, hey, look on my own site, Jeff J. Hunter, this is my web developer. He logged in early. 2:47 p.m., which is only 6:47 a.m. in the Philippines, 6:47 a.m. in the Philippines. And I'm telling him that I noticed we just launched over to our new jeffjhunter.com, but there's a page missing, 2 pages missing. And then I told him about how, remember I said earlier about I need to have a blog opt-in on my jeffjhunter.com. Yep. And then he says, oh, I get it. Oh, okay, right? This is Mark. And he loves French bulldogs, but he don't have one yet. He's got a regular bulldog, pit bull. but now back to the story is that we were using Slack, and I was just determined. Like, they wanted to go to Discord, and I wanted to do it, but like they know that I wasn't going to be the guy because I hate doing it. And on a Friday last week. This is literally, that's how fresh and new this is. On Friday last week, my team, my project management team, took the initiative and set the Discord up and then asked me for permission to make it official and make sure we had all of our zaps and stuff and, going over their automations, and said, okay, it's all set up. Everything's good and tested. Can we move over to Discord? I'm like, okay. My team was already there before I was.
Wow.
They had to drag my ass along because I didn't want to do it.
Come on, Jeff, we got this figured out. Just hop on board with us.
Exactly. And see, that's when you're going to start making real momentum in your business, is when you have people on your team that actually are innovative and come up with ideas and start working on stuff and care as passionately about the company as you do. And I feel sorry for people who don't have that feeling, because it is very lonely as an entrepreneur when you're the only person that cares about your business. And that is why I hardly ever hire freelancers. Most of mine are either strategic partners or full-time people. And the reason why is because there's no such thing as a part-time person. All that is a low priority paycheck.
Yep. No, it's so true. It's like just sending something to Fiverr. They're going to do it as fast as they can to get the money and go. Yep. And, if you have an employee and you've empowered them, like I tell my employees all the time, I'm telling you to do it this way. If you know a better way, please tell me. Mm-hmm. If you got a smarter, more efficient way to do it, teach me. Yeah. And they love it. Or my favorite is they'll come to me with a problem and I'll say, okay, that's a legitimate problem. Can you take 3 or 4 hours and research what you think would be the best 3 options for us to do, and then come back to me? And then they love it because they're like, I can go figure this out. And I've empowered them, and then they bring me all the information. I just have to make the decision, and they've armed me. They're already slightly biased. Oh, you do this too. Don't give me credit. But I'm
just saying it's brilliant.
But I mean,
de facto, I'm calling myself brilliant because I do it too.
Right. But it's so funny how many people don't empower their employees. Like and that's one of the awesome things about working with Filipinos is, if you get them excited, they're like totally on board, and they're totally loyal, they're totally hardworking, and they're totally go way above and beyond. Yeah. And
by the way, I just want to point out that there are fantastic American VAs. But
yes.
But I think that if you're going to be a quote unquote VA in America, that you're just doing yourself a disservice calling you a VA. You should be a copywriting specialist, or like there's so many different things that are.
That's the higher up. That's, that you talked about, when you were talking about outsourcing, that's the things that I think of as, like per se unskilled work. I'm going to send the majority of that, to the Philippines. But then if I have really skilled work, that typically stays in the United States or England or Canada. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're right. Well, I was going to say it's interesting though, because I have bar none, one of the best branding design teams on the planet. And it surprises people when they find out that my design team is 100% in the Philippines.
Oh, they're amazing designers.
100%. Like if I showed even just my own brand guide, like that man, here, I'll show you. You guys that are on the podcast, you're going to have to watch the video.
Yeah. So when I say like skilled work, I don't necessarily mean like web design or so. I'm talking like super niche stuff for your specific business. Like maybe you're a dentist and I don't know. Come up with an example, Jeff. Help me out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess dentist would work. I don't think you can outsource that.
No, but I mean, like it's something that's like super like skilled, like it's not like a even dentists outsource. I mean, they hire dental assistants and stuff. I mean, sure, they're in house, but it's just like mowing your lawn. I don't mow my own lawn. Maybe you do, but I don't mow my own lawn. I have these guys. I pay them $50 a month, and they come and they mow my front lawn. They trim my hedges, and they're there like every 2 weeks. So it's like it was worth $25 a pop for me to go out there? Not really, Well, no, I mean, it's worth paying somebody $25.
Oh, exactly. No, it's worth paying. Exactly. Yeah. It's not worth, what I'm saying is it's not worth my time to go out there.
Oh, right? No.
And so like, for example, right here, these are my own brand guidelines because I just relaunched my Savage Marketer brand. And, we put our logo together and the specifications and how not to use it and the typography and all the colors and the tints and shades. And like even our social media cover photos and banners and, for like how it looks on YouTube and even like the templates. And what's cool is my team chops this up, puts it into Canva templates. So when we hand it off to the client can use this from day one.
Nice.
Right.
Yep.
Even down to what our video templates are going to look like and things like that, and it's been really fun. I have to say it's been a challenge, but it's been really fun building a branding agency. And seeing that all come to fruition, like I just launched the website. Like now my website. You
guys have to watch the video because that is like probably the best brand board I've ever seen. Just so y'all know.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Well, we put a lot of. You want to hear the funny truth about this is that the brand board is because we call it the omnipresent brand guide, by the way. But we call it that because this is how you're supposed to look. And do you notice how the brand guide completely translated into the brand, like the website and everything? Like the website was made after the brand guide, and that's the whole point. But all these clients would come to us because we were doing their social media for them. And the very first question we say is, can we have a copy of your brand guide or your style guide? And 90% of them would say, we don't have one.
What's that? So
I'm like, well, how are you supposed to show up online? It's not intentional. You're just randomly putting stuff out there. So then the 10% of clients that did have one would send us these things, and they would range from, going for $500 on what's that site, the crowd pooling, 99 Designs, like 99 Designs and stuff like that. They'd have these style guides done, and they'd come back and it'd be like a color palette and like a font and whatever. And I'm like, what is this? And sometimes the brand guides would come back with like mood boards with like pictures of random ass things that represent the brand. I'm like, that has nothing to do. Like
they tagged it all in Pinterest.
Brand. Yeah, like they're like there's pins and stuff on them. I'm like, this is not what a brand guide is. And then there was somebody who had a $30,000 brand guide. I'm not going to say who. Somebody spent $30,000 on their brand guide. It came in, but they had no social media assets. They had no there was like marketing material mock-ups. There was no video frames or templates because video is a huge part of social media. And so I said, I just went to my team, and this is one of those moments where I empowered my team, and I said, guys, let's go and Google every brand guide out there and find out. So we took a mixture of our own clients and what it's out there from branding agencies that are charging 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. One was $110,000 that we found. I know because I had my team go out and ask for quotes. Hey,
right.
That when you have a team at your disposal, you use them,
Exactly.
So And I said, how could I make the best brand guide ever that truly represents how you look across all platforms, from your website to your social media to your videos on Instagram? And that's how I've been able to land really great big clients like Ask Method, Ryan Levesque. We did his branding on Instagram and Facebook. And, Alex Morton, we did a bunch of his video content on Instagram. It's because we were able to show them, hey, like this is like legit, like we're starting to do that. And let me circle back to my story, is that building out this branding team, I've learned a lot about what I just said earlier about keeping people in their zone. And I found out again today, funny story. Oh my God, you're going to laugh. So this is another moment for you guys to watch the video, because I'm about to show Michelle something super funny. And I think this is a perfect place to end our podcast today.
Yep.
This is a perfect aha moment for a seasoned, I've literally been called the king of outsourcing. So I'm about to show you a problem that the king of outsourcing still has today. All right. So last night I'm about to go to sleep. And as you know, the time zone in the Philippines are completely opposite of us. Right. So I'm in bed. It's like probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I give some very specific questions about this podcast, which I'm going to share with you. So I have a blog called the Top 20 Podcasts for Entrepreneurs. And that's what this listing is right here. Can you see that, Michelle?
Yep.
So it's literally a compilation from like almost 2 years ago. No, it is 2 years ago, of all these podcasts that people recommended me. Like there's the Tim Ferriss Show. Me and you love Tim.
Yep.
There's the Copywriters Podcast, the Lifestylist. There's Work on Your Game podcast, and all these things. And then I saw at the very bottom, there's a podcast, The Hustle Show. And I was just like, okay, let me click on this. So I clicked on it, and I looked at the latest podcast, and I saw that latest is episode 50. And when I clicked on it, I saw that it was February 19th. I'm like, wow, wait a second. It's February 12th. So I scrolled down further, and I noticed that the episode was actually posted February 19th of 2018. And I said, wait a second. And I said, I can't post because I had given my team instructions to create a PDF, because we have a PDF template, which is pretty badass. And I'll show you this. Let me show you the template for it. Here it is. So, oh man, I've already given away. So here's the template. So we have this template, and I said, look, I want you to make a PDF with all this. And I said, but what I need you to do is I need you to go through and look and see if these podcasts are recent, and remove the ones that aren't recent, and then just put top XX podcasts, whatever the number is going to be. And then I woke up in the morning, and she removes the podcast from the bottom. And then at the very top, the name of the document is literally Top XX Podcast for Entrepreneurs. So
at least you didn't tell her to put 3 X's.
Right. So if she only removed one podcast, she should only have 19 instead of 20, right? So right. I'm in my head, I'm thinking she's going to figure this out, that I just want to have the number updated to reflect how many podcasts are actually there. So if there's 17, it should be 17 or whatever. So I put XX, and she put XX podcast. So if you guys are tuning in on the audio, totally check out Michelle's video. I think you'll get a kick out of that. But
that's awesome.
That
goes to show how literal they are, though.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, this is an even better. Oh, Redora's going to hate me for saying this. I've never told this publicly before. But me and a client almost made a T-shirt. With what happened. It was so funny. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Wow. Talk about a podcast ender. A client comes to me. He's vegan. And he has this very popular cookbook. It's a healthy cookbook. But he wants to replace all the meat with healthier options that are vegan. So he tells my team member, and it's Redora. This is before she was an operations manager or anything. This is probably one of her first jobs 5-6 years ago. And I still know the client. His name's Joseph. It's so funny. He asked her to update these recipes with vegan options. And he says, anytime you see chicken, I want you to replace chicken with portobello mushroom. And she goes, great, cool, let's do it. So she's done. She says, "Sir, done with the task. Everything's good to go." And one of the recipes comes back, and he sends me a message, and he goes, "Is she for real?" And we start laughing because it comes back, and one of the recipes comes back, and it's now a boneless, skinless portobello mushroom sandwich. Boneless, skinless portobello mushroom sandwich.
That's awesome.
And we thought about making a shirt that had like literally a portobello mushroom burger, basically, that said boneless, skinless portobello mushroom sandwich. So you have to be careful just because culturally Filipinos are very literal. And that's, again, why I always recommend doing video in your procedures so that people can understand. Because it's one thing to have people do a step-by-step, but man, when people understand why they're doing something, that's the game changer. And that's how to delegate the real effective way, is to change it from, because we already understand that it has to be at a task level. But if you help people understand why they're doing that task, it will take you so much further.
Yep. And I'm going to keep you for just another second. I know we got to go and I want to respect your time, but you guys listening, Jeff is the man when it comes to outsourcing, and like puts me to shame. So,
no, but I love what you're doing. I just gave you an amen on your Facebook post yesterday. Yeah.
So you guys make sure you hit Jeff up, right? If this is something that he can really help you with, if you guys are at the point where you need to grow, get a hold of Jeff. So 2 places you can find him is at jeffjhunter.com. And then also definitely check out Savage Marketer, the podcast. Download it if you guys love it. Give it 5 stars. Give it a review.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, seriously, guys, Jeff is the man. So hit him up and tap into all that knowledge.
It's I know that we've been connected for a while, and we this call is long overdue, and I'm so honored to be on your podcast. I interview a lot of crazy people on my podcast that are building and growing and scaling their businesses just like you. It's really, I wanted to do something. I know that every podcaster says they're going to do a different podcast, but I really wanted to keep mine very, very short, 20 minutes. It's very specific. It literally asks people how they got the biggest results in their business. I've interviewed Sean Cannell, who's the number one YouTube marketer on the planet. We're actually hanging out in Las Vegas next week. See how the relationships build and grow. I'm introducing him. I'm actually doing him a solid. I'm introducing him to Cox Communications, which is one of my clients. And I also had Kamanzi and Cindy on my Constable's their last name on my show, who they teach people how to like pitch and get into publications and stuff. Like, she cold pitched Ariana Huffington, like the Ariana Huffington, and got a personal response from her in 34 minutes and a feature front page on the Huffington Post the next day. So I really try to give as much value as I can. I hope that I can add as much value as you guys got from this or more. I know this has been like hopefully an hour of brain melting, like, facts.
Amazingness.
I mean, it's definitely savage. Like, this could have been one of my episodes.
You can't steal it. It's mine.
No, but you better give me the recording, and I'll have my team chop it up and do value bombs, and I'll send it over your way.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that we do for our clients too, is we chop up all the stuff, and so I'll give you all that stuff. But I'm super honored to be here, and any way I can help you in your business, of course, and all of you listening out there, if you go to savagemarketer.com, sign up for the podcast. What I talked about earlier, the how to really brand yourself on social media, how to step up your game and get noticed in your network. That's something that I give. It's a training. There's a little 18-minute video training that goes along with a download guide. It's absolutely free. You guys can check it out. Just my gift to you for subscribing to the Savage Marketer podcast. That's
amazing. I gotta do something like that.
Boom. It's easy. It's easy. You look how much value you have. All you need to do is take the tidbits that I've dropped on this thing and the value bombs that you dropped on this thing about our lessons, put it into a downloadable guide, and give it away for free when people subscribe to your podcast.
Yep. You're You're right.
The people that say I need something like that, let's just do it. If there's one thing you take away from today, it's just to either automate that, delegate that, or delete it.
There you go. ADD. All right, guys, we're going to sign off. So we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Jeff. And we're going to definitely have to get you back on the show again.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Automate to Dominate podcast at www.awesomeoutsourcing.com/podcast. My name is Michelle Thompson.